Welcome back, Boise Entrepreneur Week. I'm delighted to be joined by Dee Mooney, the Executive Director at the Micron Foundation. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So nice to have you here, Dee. I want to get right into this because we only have 15 minutes, and you being Dee Mooney, I have so many questions for you. So let me just start by asking you this. So we all know Micron. It's a tech company, one of the largest employers in the state, but we don't necessarily know Micron as a corporate citizen so well. Here in Idaho, nationwide, and even globally. Can you give us sort of an insight to who this corporate citizen is in terms of the foundation?
Absolutely. I'm so pleased to be here and tell you all about it. So you're absolutely right. Hopefully in the Valley, people really know a lot about Micron. And I'm hoping they also know about the Micron Foundation. We have actually been around since 1999. And at that time, our leadership really felt that Micron was starting to grow more. We were starting to do more in our communities. So they wanted to set aside some funds so we could have a continuous stream of giving. And so back in 1999, they set aside $100 million for an endowment. And that has been the basis of our giving ever since. So we started, of course, in Boise, being our headquarters, we always want to support our community here. But since that time, we have now grown to 14 different countries. We have lots of different organizations that we help throughout the world. Almost 400 grants are given on an annual basis, and really love supporting our communities.
So you spoke about the three pillars recently as you were describing sort of the impact metrics of the Micron Foundation. Can you tell us a little bit about those three pillars and what they really mean?
You bet. You can imagine, like as we started giving, we started doing a lot of community relations and wanting to help so many different people and different causes. But we really found to make an impact in certain areas, we really needed to focus. So we came upon three pillars. The first one I'll talk about is Inspire Learning. This is all about STEM education. And of course, being an engineering company, STEM is absolutely so important to us and wanting to make sure that we've got those innovators of tomorrow, a lot of probably what you're talking about this week. So STEM education, really talking about getting students interested in STEM careers. We've got programs in the elementary, junior high, high school, and also all the way into universities where we support lots of professors, lots of student engagement, and really ultimately trying to get students engaged in innovative and STEM careers of the future.
So that pillar is really sort of planting the seeds of the future workforce.
Absolutely.
So there is a clear, call it ROI for Micron. There's also some social justice baked into there because STEM education as a tool can help lift up the underserved in our communities.
Absolutely. And we have, through the years, we have been so focused on students that have an interest in STEM. A lot of times we have come to our chip camp or come to our job shadow. And we find that students that normally gravitate towards that, they're signing up. But in the last couple of years, we have had a very focused effort on finding those students that normally wouldn't sign up. Those underserved students. Maybe they're not right next door to Micron. Maybe they're not normally gravitating towards a technical career.
Maybe their parents didn't have a technical
career. Maybe their parents, their uncle, their neighbor, they're not engaged in a technical career. So we're starting to go out and try to find those students and expose them to careers. Not only for Micron, we'd love if students, all the best and brightest come to Micron, but it's really industry as a whole because that's part of our charter. That's part of our philanthropy is making sure that the innovators of tomorrow, we're starting to cultivate them at a young age and expose them to what's out there.
So STEM education is one pillar.
Absolutely.
I cut you off. There's two more pillars I want to get to.
STEM is so important to us that I usually spend more time on that. But Inspire Learning pillar, then we have our Enriching Our Community pillar. And that's all about basic human needs. Really you can't go forth in any type of STEM career if you don't have your basic human needs met. So we support hunger relief, shelter, fresh water, Those are some of the grants that we do in our Enriching Community pillar. And then Cultivate Giving, that is all about, I talked about the foundation and giving these grants, but really as philanthropy and corporate social responsibility has evolved, it's really about getting your team members engaged too. They have so many passions. They're out and about in your community.
I've seen tons of Micron employees post on
Good.
social media,
Good.
digging with shovels. Is that what you're talking about?
Absolutely. Because before, it kind of seemed that we were separate. Like, we would give our grants, and maybe our employees were out doing something, but now we're bringing us all together and really leveraging all of their talents and passions, helping get volunteer opportunities organized. And then we have a matching gift program. So each of our employees are able to give up to $10,000, and Micron Foundation will match that. So their gift
For every
doubles.
single employee?
Every single employee has that option. Now, not everybody gives that ultimate 10,000, but that is available for them to give. And we have really good engagement. About 60% of our team members already are engaged either in giving gifts, volunteering, or both. So that Cultivate Giving, that's our third pillar. And then let me mention a fourth pillar that throughout this last year, we have wanted to focus so much more on social justice issues. It really should be embedded in a lot of the activities that we're already doing, but we do want to have a specific focus on social justice, those systemic problems that we've all been talking about and have really been brought to the forefront. So we now are standing up a brand new pillar and really having some focus on finding partners to help us on those social justice issues.
What fascinates me is there are other corporations who are actively engaged in social justice, but what specifically fascinates me about Micron is how Micron is taking their core competency of technology, memory, ultimately data, and they turn that into human-centered data for social justice purposes.
Sure.
Is this fourth pillar? Is Sanjay behind this? Is this born out of the Micron Foundation? Where does this come from, the social justice pillar?
Oh, well, absolutely. Sanjay, our CEO, he's so engaged in our pillars and in our philanthropy. He absolutely supports this. Sometimes he calls me and he's like, what do you think about this? And I've told our team that I want to be able to bring these ideas to him. So let's, think about how we can address this. And you mentioned our core competencies, data. There's so much data out here. So why can't we leverage that human-centered data to help us make decisions on where best to help? So we're absolutely behind that. Sanjay is excited about what we're going to do in this space, and we're really just getting started, but looking forward to what's to come.
One of the examples I'm aware of, and I interviewed your vice president of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Good.
And by the way, you have one, which is amazing.
Yes.
And she was telling me about how Micron used human-centered data to teach the police force in the cities where Micron has a presence about biases. Are there any other cool examples of how you applied this human-centered data that you can share with our audience?
That's a really cool one, and I really am glad that we were able to do that. The thing that's coming to mind that it would be good for your audience to know is that with this data, we are able to really get down to some specific demographic issues and pieces of data that are going to allow us to respond to that and build programs around that. I talked to you about, the students coming into STEM. Now we're able to take a look at where did those students come from? What's their ethnic background? What's their racial background? Do we see trends that we're able to have programs that are directly helping those students, much more so than we ever have had before? We always want to track our students and make sure that they're engaged and hopefully following them as they progress in their career. But now we're able to even go deeper into that and understand their lived experience and create programs that will help them in the future.
So you can measure what works, what went well, what didn't go well, and you
Absolutely.
can pivot. That's pretty fascinating.
Absolutely.
Now let's get to something local. Can you tell our audience a little bit about the initiative around the River Street neighborhood and how that fits into the 3 pillars, or 4, or if it does at all?
Well, it hopefully will come across all, but we are thinking of it in that 4th pillar, in that social justice pillar. So a year ago, maybe even a little bit more than a year ago, we had about 100 interviews that we conducted with different individuals, organizations that were all focused on social justice efforts, human rights efforts here in Boise. And what we heard is that we really need cultural pieces, economic development pieces, and educational pieces. So those were those 3 pillars within social justice. One thing that we heard is that those cultural pieces are so important, and that River Street neighborhood, the Irma Heyman House, is something that we've started to look at. Can we help restore that house? And can that be a place of community conversations where we can understand the historic pieces of that neighborhood and how they've shaped today, and just give people that understanding and education of what used to be, and the horrible things that happened, and even the wonderful things that happened there too. So we're just getting started in that, more to come, and really looking forward to working with a lot of different partners on how might we come and help that neighborhood and restore it, and be able to educate people on its history.
Quite the corporate citizen we have here locally. I want to thank you for sharing that with myself and the audience, because it's a side of Micron, quite frankly, many don't get to see. Me as an executive director at Trailhead, I do get to see it more because we also engage with Micron. And speaking of that, Micron is sort of all over Boise Entrepreneur Week. I know you guys are sponsoring the Cybersecurity Challenge. You're sponsoring the Youth Innovation Challenge. My question to you, have you taken a glimpse at the Youth Innovation Challenge? Any of those problem statements stand out to you?
I was able to take a look at some of those. And, certainly the mayor, she talked about climate change, and that is certainly a big issue and problem, and I'd love to get some ideas around that. So we're interested in that too. We've got a sustainability council that works on a lot of different issues there, and has measures of how Micron can do its part and absolutely be a good corporate citizen in that space. And then Albertsons, one of their challenges was talking about talent and the workforce of tomorrow. And I think that's a big challenge that we're all facing, especially in this remote world, and how to attract, especially the new college graduates and that new workforce. What keeps them engaged? And we're hearing a lot about these type of things, getting engaged in their community. So I certainly am looking forward to the solutions on some of those challenges.
Same here. I can't wait to see what these kids come up with. And again, this is for high school students and college students that are enrolled in Idaho. And so we are very looking forward to November 19th, which is when those solution statements are due.
Wonderful.
I'll share some of them with you, specifically for those 2 that you just mentioned.
I'd love to hear that.
Dee, thank you so much for making the time and coming down here. And thank you for your support. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
There you go, folks. Dee Mooney, Executive Director at the Micron Foundation. Coming up next, a recruitment survival guide with our friends from Talent Spark. Check it out. But before, quick word from our sponsors.